Good evening and welcome to the June 2020 DNN user group meeting for Southern Fried DNN user group. We're excited to be here tonight just to hang out with everybody and talk a little bit about what's near and dear to us in the DNN community, all the things that have been going on while we've all been surviving quarantine and lockdown and all kinds of crazy things happening around us. Client projects being upended, client projects needing to be rushed. Some people slow to pay, some people desperately needing help. We've had all kinds of things happening, at least in our world, but I'm glad to be here tonight with everybody and share a little bit of exciting things about DNN and the community around us. I'll dive into a few different things. One is that we did have Mitch Sellers scheduled tonight to talk about some things. So he will be joining us next month. He had to back out for some family things tonight, and in place of that, we'll do a little bit of content, a little bit of tap dancing to just put together some things to look at tonight. So it might be a shorter session than we normally have, but I'm sure we'll have some interesting things to cover and go through. One of the things that I did want to mention is that last month's meeting we did a DNN Jeopardy, and I think that everyone had some fun playing DNN Jeopardy. I wanted to mention that we've posted that up to the website. The video is there so that you can watch the episode and take a look at the winners and losers of the DNN Jeopardy.
Yeah, it was rigged. I claim it was rigged.
I had a fun time with it, and so we might make that a regular. That could come back once or twice a year. I think that was a lot of fun.
The winner had a deck of cards and the same.
Well, I was going to ask, does the winner have a deck of cards to show off on screen? Does he receive those already?
I don't remember who the winner was.
Yeah, have you received them yet, or are they still in shipping?
I was the winner?
Yes, you were the winner.
Yeah, okay, well, they're still in shipping.
Like I said, it was rigged.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you was Daniel was the clear winner, and we sent out to him a care package of the DNN playing cards, and we also had some of our stickers and things that we've ordered that we'll have for DNN Summit for next year. Some of them have this metallic sheen, so he has a DNN MVP and a DNN logo sticker that I've sent out to him in a package. So he should have that. I thought by now, but soon.
Winner is a big word because I was second, third, most of the match, and at the end.
Yeah, you played Jeopardy well.
Yeah.
Anyways, also to mention that to anyone who wants to play Jeopardy, pull together some of your DNN friends and go through it and play it on your own. You can play the same game and those same questions, and they're available to you. So you can, obviously watch the video, but you can also click the link for So Fried DNN Jeopardy, and you can play that game any point in time you like to play that game in the future. So that is posted on the southernfrieddnn.com website. So tonight for content, what we're going to spend some time doing is I will spend a little bit of time showing you some things in Cloudflare that are new and interesting that Mitch Sellers had described to me recently that I'm excited to share DNN specific. We're going to take a little tour and have a little fun with a virtual conference system that David had shown me, and we'll just talk some pros and cons and play around with it a little bit. It should be interesting. We're going to talk about a few different things, one of which, as we jump into community information and community announcements, it's never too many times for us to mention that there's a new version of DNN that was released really just in time for last month's meeting. But DNN 9.6.1 is out, and if you are running a website that is any version of DNN 9, lower versions, you should certainly, as quickly as possible, move up to 9.6.1. Really, if you're running a DNN 7 or DNN 8 or anything older, it's a pretty easy transition to get up to 9.6.1. There are a few steps that happen around 9.2, 9.3, and then above 9.4 that will you'll need to do some preparation for. But I can say, having done dozens and dozens of these upgrades, that it's a fairly smooth process, especially once you've done it once or twice. You get through those in pretty good order. So DNN 9.6.1 is out there and ready for you to install and upgrade to. David and Daniel are both with us here. Any other notes or things you want to say about that release from a month or so ago?
I've got quite a few sites that are using it, so yeah, it's been rock solid for us.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Issue, and we should be publishing, I don't want to talk out of my hat, but you should be publishing in 9.6.2 next week, or we will steer towards a 9.7 and maybe extend it a little bit. But let's say there's an 80% chance that we're going to release a 9.6.2 with a couple bug fixes, including the site logo. So if you're running 9.6.1, the major issue I saw, you cannot switch the site logo. You have to go in the database to do it.
Daniel, I had seen some notes coming in about that, about the site logo, that it works, but if you try to edit it or switch it, it has an issue, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you have
same thing for the fab icon.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing for the fab icon. So it's not something you change every day, but it's still kind of an annoyance. And it's fixed, and if we release a 9.6.2, it's going to be included together with a couple other bug fixes. We will probably decide on that Tuesday.
Okay, so possibly a nearby release of either a 9.6.2 or holding off for a 9.7, just a little bit after that.
Both of those were going towards a 9.6.2 early next week, so it's just there was some other stuff we wanted to get inside, and being everybody doing that for free, we can't promise anything, so
Sure.
it was the intention early next week.
Well, like David said, it's pretty solid, and I've also seen the same.
Yeah, like David said, release candidate early next week. We would leave in RC state for a week. Yeah.
All right. So, taking a look at things within community news.
Hey Ryan, just a couple of things. A couple of noteworthy things just to give everybody a bit to look forward to. We may have mentioned this a little bit in the past, but I know Daniel and Peter Docker have been working quite a bit on a new file manager for digital asset management. So we're hoping to see that in one of these future releases coming in, probably 9.7. We don't really know exactly yet, but that's in the works. And I know there's...
That would be the trigger for 9.7.
Yep. So, and then also, I know there's quite a bit of conversation going on about, the update service, how that works, and, really getting things a bit better and refined there. So there's some exciting ideas on the table for that as well. So it's been fun to converse through that. And I know there's a lot of energy around several areas in DNN that it's just past due time for us to look at and so forth. So it's just kind of nice to see so many people jumping in at this point and really wanting to get things better.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kind of put out my statement there about the file manager. The Windows calculator had been the exact same Windows calculator from Windows 3 on. And that calculator didn't ever change because it was a calculator. It didn't really need to change. But it finally changed when it was so old that Windows couldn't run it anymore. And they were having to make excuses within the Windows platform to even be able to allow the running of the older Windows calculator. So they finally rebuilt and made a brand new Windows calculator and added a bunch of fun features to it. That's about as old as the core DNN file manager is. It's been around so long, and it's been solid. It hasn't needed new features. It hasn't needed new things, but there have been a lot of new ideas for how to manage files and to organize things, and so I'm very excited, just like I was to see the old calculator go away. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen here with the new file manager, and I don't know. If we're lucky, maybe we can ask a couple of these folks to give us a sneak preview of look and functionality before it gets out to release.
Well, and the major driving factor behind it, just so people are aware, is really security focused.
Yep.
So control. So hopefully, with that will come a new experience, and I'm sure it will have its pros and cons as well. But it's a good starting point to at least help with some of the security concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. The technology behind it being changed and updated will make it so that it'll be dusted off and ready to keep improving over time along with the rest of the platform. So that'll be interesting. I mean, just to spin a little longer on that, Daniel, with the file manager that's in progress or being planned, like real basic question: is it on a standalone page or is it in a persona-var slide out? How is it being presented right now?
So the ultimate goal is that it's a direct replacement of the existing one. For that to happen, we can have it have the exact same name and the same manifest, and it's just going to replace everywhere you're already using it.
Yeah. So it's a module. It's a newer version of the module.
Yeah, basically. For this to happen, we need to have exact feature parity, which we don't have now. We don't have a UI to edit folder mappings for the folder providers, so it still works, but you have to go in the database to edit it. And I think that's it, right?
File folder permissions is the other.
Folder mapping. So, bearing that we have time to make that relatively quickly, it's a direct replacement. If we don't, an alternate module, and well, you can use this one or that one, but note that the old one, we're going to remove it in 10, and in the meantime, use this one, it's more secure, but you have this and that it's not implemented yet, so
interesting.
Kind of an in-between. If I had no job whatsoever, I would be working on that every day and making it happen, but yeah, since it's volunteer work, we're seeing if we can do that relatively quickly or not.
But with that approach, it sounds like there will be some options for people that they could, they could upgrade it or they could move forward, or if they desperately needed some feature that wasn't complete, they could stay as is and accept some consequences from it. That's very flexible.
So worst case scenario, we kind of have a working UI and everything. We have a little fix to do with the drop zone and stuff, small stuff. So the worst case scenario, we get a 9.7 out quick, and listen, if you don't need folder providers and folder permissions UI, you can switch right now. If you need that, wait.
Nice, yeah. Well, so kind of moving on to other topics within the community. One of the places that I always go to pick up the news and the information of what's new and been released is to hit the dnncommunity.org and take a look at the blog posts. So we'll kind of jump into some of these that are here and out. First off, one of the things to mention is that talking with Will Stroll just a little bit ago, he knew that a new release for Hotcakes, the e-commerce store system in DNN Hotcakes, was very close to a release, and they have now released a version 3.3. It's one of the newer releases for this store system in a few years, because basically they had a 3.0 release a couple of years back, and there have been a few minor changes, but this is really probably one of the first ones that's had a bigger community involvement to get rolled out with updates and changes. And there's been a lot of work to retire older Telerik controls and integration with it. So it's kind of notable to mention that they've had this release here, and that's good to celebrate. And if you're running a hotcakes instance, do some tests, read through the release notes, because there are some important things in there, and then get your upgrading on. So that's hotcakes is the open source community supported e-commerce system inside of DNN there. Good time to mention too that Razor Cart, that's a very popular Smith Cart or Razor Cart e-commerce store system that's been around for a long time. They also just released updates within the last couple of weeks, and one of the main things that they did was prepare it so that they could run in .NET Framework 4.7.2, which means that now you can run Razor Cart in an updated version of DNN 9.5 or 9.6, whereas before you might have had that as a restriction for upgrading. So Razor Cart has also upgraded themselves, and that's notable, and you should update those if you have those and are running those. Otherwise, one of the other blog posts that was up was our David Poindexter's new update and information on kind of a Part 2 blog article about the new work that was done inside of GitHub for issue triage and the organization of the issues that are loaded inside of GitHub. And kind of what I did to prepare those was to pull up, and it's going to refresh, to pull up what you normally had before as a straight list of all of the open issues. Now, even with this straight list of open issues, they now have all of the tags to them so that you can see information about them, and this view is already better and improved because of what's been added and the work and the effort that David and others have done to put this together. But the issue triage is pretty impressive. This makes an organized presentation out of a long string of items that you have to really dive into to understand the differences and what is there and what is perhaps easy to jump into and easy to work with within your skill set or your area of interest, versus not understanding everything and having to read through everything at one time. So I'll kind of stop describing here and pass it back to David. David, do you want to talk a little bit about what this effort has meant, and maybe especially with a little bit about the idea that this effort's going to have to be maintained for this to be beneficial long term? Everyone's going to have to follow these rules and participate with them, and let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the idea of the whole issue triage here is to help us to onboard issues and qualify them, and make sure we have them assigned to the right areas and so forth. So this has actually been out there for quite some time, but we've had a tremendous backlog. I think when we first started this, and Daniel, correct me if I misspeak here, but I think we had somewhere around 230, 250 or so issues that they were old, some of them as old as, gosh, going back to, I know I saw a bunch of them from 2018 back in there, and they just, it's great that people take the time to put the issues out there, but it's so easy for it to get lost in the mix, and that's really one of the reasons why we wanted to start doing it this way. So the idea is when a new issue is created, it automatically gets added to the awaiting triage column, and that's where a few of us can go in and read through the issue, assign the appropriate labels to the issue, and move it through the workflow. So if there's something about the issue that either it hasn't been verified or it needs some more information for clarity's sake, we'll put it into the awaiting compliance and verification column. But after that is done and we know that it's either a bug or an enhancement or in some rare cases a full feature kind of like issue, it'll go into those appropriate columns. So the idea is if you're a developer or someone that's wanting to contribute to the platform, you could either come to the projects tab here and go to those columns and kind of sort through them, or because of the the rich labeling system that we now have back in that issues view, you now can sort things. So if you have a particular skill set that you really want to focus on issues that are in a certain area of the platform, the idea is that you could do a search by area and get to those to get to those. So like if you were to go back to issues there, Ryan, and we'll just do a short example here, and you just in the filters there, you were able, or you could just go to labels. That's true. There's so many different ways you can do this, but if you go to labels there, you could find the proper area label that is your area of expertise. So if you, for instance, have a skill set in React components, you're familiar with how the persona bar modules work, you could go and, for instance, if you wanted to go in and look at the site settings, you wanted to make an enhancement or something to the site settings, you could go down just a bit, or click that, yeah. But you could click on the area for site settings and go and find all the issues that are related to that, and quickly find out if there's something that you would be able to contribute to. So yeah, as we go forward, we're going to try to be more diligent about this. We still have a few kinks to work out, one of which is when new issues are created, sometimes they are not automatically added to the awaiting triage column, and Daniel and I still have something on our plate to try to fix that, because right now it's kind of a rudimentary way that happens, and it's easy to get messed up unintentionally by anybody that's out there. But we're going to try to do it a GitHub Actions way, so that it's going to happen, confidently every single time. So yeah, so the idea is you can come out here and really, refine your searches a bit and go there.
And it's great also in the board section, if you're not a developer, a lot of the new issues, it's great when we have accurate steps to make it happen, the bug. And it's not very common that it's a clear bug that works and it happens. So if you have time, but you're not a developer, going to test them and saying, hey, it doesn't happen for me with this setup, and some other guy comes and, hey, with this setup, it happens for me, and then we know, okay, it's related with localization or something, So it's very, very helpful, because a lot of the time to resolve bugs is having correct steps to make it happen.
So as a good entry-level task for someone who's not a developer but is a DNN enthusiast, or themselves has many DNN instances to test within, they could go and look at the things that are new reported bugs or issues, and they could just check out and see if they have those same problems. And if they do, then they can reinforce. If they don't, then they can put in and respectfully say, I tested on this version of DNN, I wasn't able to reproduce. And their efforts would make a big difference to the developers that are trying to work on something.
Yeah, was it a clean install? Was it an upgrade? Is it multi-language?
Right.
Describe what's different from a standard install, and sometimes we can figure out it happens when this and that.
Yeah.
On the second column. The second column is also very interesting. That's someone looked at it, could not reproduce, and put it in that column. So they're missing some information to make it happen. So that's very useful also. If you're not a developer, you have different setups, test it out and let us know,
Yep. All right. So that's kind of that announcement that was put out there on the DNN community website, really with that platform issue management. If you want to read the rest of the blog article or go back to the first part, you can kind of read the inspiration and the starting point of where it begun. But then you can also continue going through the different community things to see recent announcements from other folks. Switching now to a few other topics. Again, earlier I was mentioning that we did have Mitch Sellers lined up for today's meeting, but some family issues he had to attend to made him need to back out for tonight. So I'm going to spend some time showing you a couple of different things. One of them is DNN related, and the other one that's more user group and user meetings related miscellaneous, and then we'll kind of see where conversations take us. But one of the things that we've been talking about recently, especially with I think 2 SoFries ago or 3 SoFries ago, we talked about different elements of DNN best practices, of security, of backup, of different types of things. And we talked briefly about Cloudflare and the idea that Cloudflare could help provide a few different benefits for your DNN site, and really for any sites, any other system. In general, it can act obviously as a CDN. That's what it was originally built and developed and conceived for, so that you could have a distributed cached network for displaying and grabbing your hard files, your JS files, your image files, your hard files, and having them distributed throughout the country or internationally, so that they load faster from a local distributed location rather than having to go exactly to your server. And as part of that CDN benefit, they also then realize that there's a lot of security benefit to what Cloudflare can provide, primarily from the idea that your IP address, when you're using the Cloudflare service, is a dynamic IP address. And just as fast as you can get loaded up with DDoS attack, they can drop that IP address and give you another one and keep doing that to keep pace with DDoS type load or activity or other types of issues. There are also some other firewall and protective items that you can put in place. So for instance, if you have your website so that it only supports the United States for customers, or only supports Canada, Mexico, and the United States for customers, then you can reduce a large amount of unwanted traffic and unwanted sniffing activity by blocking out other countries that aren't those 3 primary countries that your website services. So there's a lot of features of things that you can do within Cloudflare when you're using it with DNN. But one of the things that Mitch mentioned recently was that there's a new element within the web application firewall inside of Cloudflare. So here I'm logged into my Cloudflare account and into one of our sites where we are actively using the web application firewall. The web application firewall is a feature in Cloudflare that has several rules, several security rules and several security blocks that they've just built over time with a set of basic rules that can be used to protect and harden and block unwanted traffic from based on different types of platforms that you might be using. So when you turn on the web application firewall, it starts as an on-off type of action within Cloudflare. But you'll see that they have an ability for you to create your own custom rules. If you know what you want to block or know what you want to protect, you can make some custom rules. But they have a series of pre-made managed rule sets, and those managed rule sets are the ones that we're going to talk about here today. For instance, if you were using this on a Joomla website or a Magento website or a Drupal website, then they have a set of rules already pre-made that help watch for security vulnerabilities within those platforms, and if you turn that on, then Cloudflare is going to block malicious activities or look closer at potential malicious activities from within those systems. Now, of course, you'll notice there's a heavy LAMP basis there with several of those rules. That's just a thing on its own. So I don't have any of those enabled here. I do, interestingly, have to have Cloudflare Flash enabled because within this website there is a tool that's being used that uses Flash for upload. There are a couple of things that still use Flash for upload, and it's ridiculous, but it's still out there. Otherwise, that would be turned off, but we have some security that's running there as though Flash was running in the site. But there's a set of Cloudflare specials, and these Cloudflare specials are rules that they have made that are kind of general across-the-board rules. These general across-the-board rules have a bunch of different things in them that if you wanted to, you don't have to turn the whole group on and off. You can edit them specially or specifically. But if I bring up the advanced screen so that I take a look at the special rules, we can take a look at one of my favorites to see right here in the middle as part of the Cloudflare specials, and that is .NET Nuke file inclusion. So there are a few different things that help manage issues for DNN, and this is one that is very specifically named and mentioned as part of the default features for Cloudflare. So very nice to get a nod from Cloudflare as seeing .NET Nuke in the list. But then there are a few other different things that are listed in here. So these Cloudflare specials, by enabling these as a set of rules, can help your Cloudflare protected DNN websites. When describing, the protections and the different things that you get, it was described to me that, when you put in place, several of the different Cloudflare securities and you turn on things like this web application firewall, then you get some extra boost in your protection, and it can help mitigate some of the issues and mitigate some of the holes that you have, especially if you find that obviously you need to upgrade your DNN sites and you need to get up to newer versions just to help you out. But if you're having some issues because of older modules that are stopping or slowing down your upgrades, this can be something that can help you in your toolbox to stay as secure as you can and protect yourself with as many tools as you have available to you. So I was very pleased to see that, and have turned that on recently for DNN sites. I have seen no adverse reactions or adverse issues with it, and know that that's working well. So I'll kind of open that up. I see that chat's having some fun with the peanut gallery. Any comments or things that anyone wants to throw in regarding this Cloudflare item?
Yeah, it works 100%.
Oh, go ahead, David. Sorry.
Yeah, David, you were saying it works 100%?
Yeah, it definitely works. Yep, and it's worth the upgrade to Pro just for that.
Oh, thank you. I forgot to mention that. It is not part of the free Cloudflare accounts. As in, if we are doing work where we just need to give people some SSL certificates for validation purposes, then we'll use the free Cloudflare accounts. But for most clients, we'll end up encouraging them or requiring that they pay the $20 a month for a paid account, because this web application firewall is part of the paid first level tier of the paid plan.
I was just going to say as well.
Daniel, you were going to say? Yeah. Or Mike, you were going to say, go.
Okay. I was just going to say that if you're also hosting something like a Microsoft Azure or AWS, where you're paying by compute time, reducing the traffic for bots and things like that will save you money on that end as well. So it's a nice additional perk, I think.
Yep, that's a good point. So then the other thing that we were going to spend some time with tonight, just for the fun of it, was a video conferencing system, a get-together hangout system that is called VirBELA. I would assume for a combination of the word virtual and Bella, beautiful. And so we have VirBELA as the name of this system. And I'm not saying that we're going to have a Southern Fried here, but I think it might be fun. Maybe we do something where we have an event of Southern Fried, and we all get together and hang out in this location just to try it out one time. But to get that started or promote it a little bit, I've downloaded and am running an instance of it, and I thought we could spend a little bit of time with that today, just to see how it works and to talk about it just a little bit. So I've switched screens. I'm not sure how the animations are going to come across on the screen, because in general video and VR type things don't don't come over screen share that well, but I'll show just a couple of things about this. To begin with, as a platform, this is being promoted as, certainly right now during quarantine and alternate trade show and conference type situations, is being promoted as an option for universities and schools and people who put on trade shows as an idea of how you can have a virtual hangout and a virtual conference that has a little bit of a fun element to it because of the 3D and visuals of it, but also the way that it functions. And so it's an interesting concept to me. One of the things I'll do is I'll put my space bar on so that I can look around the world. You know, if I was in a VR headset, this might be fun to look around and see what things look like. But this is the main campus. You kind of have a map on the right-hand side of the campus, and all of these arrows are showing people near you and what direction they're facing. You end up having a list up in the top left-hand corner that shows you all the active people who are in the world at that period of time. So right now, in this group-free version of VirBELA, I'm logged in, and there are 76 users total in this environment, and there are 19 users right now in this space that I'm in, which is the main campus area. So if I, you know, take my user, I could do some things like walk around. It is a little funny of an idea to think that you're now in a virtual environment, so if you want to attend a lecture that's happening in the lecture hall, you have to walk to get there. That's interesting. You'll talk to people as you go along. So if Daniel was up here, I can walk up and I could talk to Daniel. I just ran through some user, but you know, I could talk to Daniel while we were walking over to go see you know, something that's going on in the lecture hall. But you can also, if I turn around here, do things like walk up to a table and you can sit down. So they're really going out of their way here to reproduce the conference room and conference environment, and can have an ability for me to come, for instance, and sit down in a chair, and I can have multiple other people sit down in the chairs around me at this table. Now, there are only 77 people in the world right now, and I don't know any of these 77. But earlier today, when I was in, there were about 190 people, and I started to get the idea of how this can be useful. One of the things was that when I came to a table, I could hear everyone's microphone and audio who was near me. I didn't hear 199 people. I only heard the 7 that were around the table near me. So they do things that control your microphone and your video experience based on proximity to where you are. And that was the first point that I realized when I was playing around with it, where I realized that they were on to something that was interesting. You know, there's this visual presentation of spaces in a world that you're in. That could either be really slick and really fun, or it could be a gimmick that is a bit annoying but cutesy, right? But when I realized the audio portion of it, and you know, if you've been in any Zoom meetings or large conferences like we do here for SoFri, and you get 15 people all trying to talk on their microphones, and you're having to tell everyone to mute your microphone, it's really fairly disruptive of the event you're trying to have, especially when you get a range of new people who don't understand they need to mute their microphone, they need to do these things, they're just trying, you know, to get into it. It would be very hard, I could imagine, to have something like DNN Summit and have it virtually, and all of us just go into a free conference call. That would, unless it's in lecture mode, would be very disruptive. However, this VirBELA makes it so that you can walk around, you can mill, you can go to different events that are being held and move from room to room without having to call into different numbers, without having to change your conference call that you're getting into, and just by proximity, your microphones are controlled with what's going on and who's doing what. So I'll kind of show some more examples of this here real quick. First off, before I leave the area, let's show you this. If anyone has kids who are playing Roblox, or I don't know, maybe I'm youth shaming there. If you play Roblox, this feels to me like this is a Minecraft/Roblox type world in which you are moving around and you are doing activities. My 15-year-old son said that this was exactly like Roblox, and he would love to be doing this instead of the Zoom meetings he was doing for school. And he was so excited. He thought this thing was pretty slick, was pretty cool. It's going to a black screen for a moment, but I'm coming in so that I can manage my avatar. You know, one of the things you're able to do in this system is control or change your avatar. It's less, it has fewer options than controlling your look in a Wii or a Microsoft Xbox character. So you can't really do a lot of control. If I go in to change my shirt, for instance, they have about 6 different shirt styles, but that's about it. I think I've gone through about 4 different shirt styles. If you go into hair, there's only, you know, maybe 6 or 10 different styles, but you can do a little bit of work to make things be how you want them to be. I think one of my complaints is that I haven't seen anybody yet who works out the hair correctly. I need to be able to have the top of my head be brown and the bottom of my head be white, and they don't have that anywhere. We, Microsoft, or anybody else. Anywho, so you can have some fun playing around with your character and making them look different. That's obviously part of the interest, and I could envision that if we did something like this for the DNN community, it'd be fun to see who gets close to their own avatar and makes them look similar to what they actually look like, versus just having fun and seeing what you can come up with and making yourself look as goofy as possible. With the restrictions that there are in it and the limitations, I was surprised at some of the things they do have. So, you know, they've only got 3 styles of glasses. Okay, but they have watches, and you can have watches and jewelry. Okay. I don't know if the audio comes over, but I was just welcomed back to campus, and people were talking to me through the system to tell me how to use the system and to get along with it. So you can walk everywhere that you want to go. So if I wanted to, I could walk over here to the side where there is, you know, a group of people sitting down at a table, and as I get close to them, I can hear their audio and they can hear my audio. Right now my mic is off, so I'm not talking to anybody. You know, I could sit down at the table with them and I could start a conversation. So I could imagine being at a conference with DNN folks and saying, oh, hey, look, there's David and there's Clint. Hey, let's all meet up at this table. And we go sit down, and anyone else who comes near us can be in on our conversation. And then if they want to leave the conversation, they just walk away and they join another conversation. There are some fun things that are here, you know, on purpose for fun. So, for instance, I can come and decide that I want to kick this soccer ball and kick it and bounce it around, so you can be standing in a group of people and you can kick a soccer ball, or there's supposedly, I haven't seen it, but there's a way that you can clap and raise your hands and do a backflip. So there's some fun things with your avatar of what you can do. But you don't have to walk everywhere. There's a go-to button up here. Oh, and also with people, if you see people you recognize while you're all together in one place, you can click to go to where those people are. And you can go, so if I was looking for David and I wanted to talk with him, I could just find David in the system and I could jump to exactly where he is. Otherwise, I can click go to, and I could go to the different sections or the different places that they've made in this little virtual world. So for instance, I'm going to head to the auditorium and just kind of jump there so that we can kind of show a little bit about how the auditorium works. that idea of proximity, an idea of areas, works here in this auditorium. It's hard for me to tell if somebody's on in SoFri is talking to me or if someone here in this area is talking to me. It's someone that's actually in the auditorium. So I walked farther away from that guy to lower his volume so I didn't have to hear him talking anymore. The way that it works in the auditorium is you can have sponsors and advertisers, people who are supporting you, showing up around the room as banner advertisements and as promotions that are on the sides of the room. Otherwise, the presenters who are on stage have microphone preference. So if you are presenting, you simply take your avatar to the stage, and when you enter the stage, you get a presentation tool that allows you to present material. If you're done presenting, you leave the stage. You don't have to disconnect. You don't have to stop sharing your screen. You just leave the stage. But you can put content up on the different screens, and it could be that you have one person putting content up on screens. You could have multiple people. You can have a panel of people who are speaking, and so they sit on stage, and therefore their microphones are louder than everyone else's and are the ones that are presenting. There's an AMBO, and when you step up to the AMBO, you automatically have volume control. The people who are in the seats are muted when they're in the seats. If they raise their hand, then their microphone is taken back off and allowed to speak loudly. So there are a few different things that, you know, as I started to play around with it and I thought it was kind of cute at first, I started to realize they've put together some good ideas that help make it easier for you to have a large format conference or a large format grouping. One of the presentations that I heard earlier today was that someone says, can you play football? I think you can, with that soccer ball, go play as much as you want to and kick it back and forth between people. There's some games that you can play, teamwork building games we can show in a second. But one of the people said something about the auditorium, and he said the auditorium grows in size based on the number of people who show up. So it always looks full. But this is the smallest size that it is. But if double this amount of people show up into the room, it keeps growing from the middle and adding seats. So it'll never be at, above capacity. It can have people filling up the seats everywhere. So again, this is the auditorium. If I switch and head to another couple of the rooms, I'll show the conference room, and then we'll kind of wrap up from there. It's a desktop application. You sign up for an account on the website. You then log in. You download the desktop application, and you run and play the desktop application. It is a bit kludgy in that sometimes you can get stuck doing something, or it'll be processing. You can tell it's working hard. But in general, I played around with it for about an hour today, and here another half an hour now, and it's passable. It works well enough that I could imagine gathering a large group of people here and having some fun with it. I'm trying to get this go-to menu working now. I'm saying it's passable. It's having trouble clicking. Let's go to a conference room. Let's go to a boardroom small. Oh, come on.
Is there a
while I'm trying to click on that and go to another environment, what does everybody think of it? Is it interesting? Is it goofy? What do you think?
David, you go ahead and spoke at the same time.
I was going to say something stupid, like I'm still trying to figure out what that noise is on Ryan's. I'm sure it's his computer fan running or something, but
thought it was a vacuum.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder, because I've been running the VirBELA the whole time, and it's giving me audio, and it's giving me not white noise, but I have an ambient noise from VirBELA. I wonder if that's coming over to you guys.
No, I think that was something else. This was before you started up VirBELA.
Yep. Oh, come on. I'm going to click on a room.
Is there only the one kind of open world, Ryan, or for like you mentioned like conferences, things like that? Can you create private worlds and spaces?
Yes.
Yeah,
so that's part of the rub of it.
This is the
David, you want to mention?
It's what they call the open campus, and that's free. And then you can actually do private events and things like that. It's for a cost. But, yeah.
Yeah, they have their pricing model is that they have it priced for small teams and organizations, and it's priced by the number of people, or it's larger organizations or larger conferences. And so there's a pretty stiff cost to some of it. It's not as though it's free or cheap. You would be doing this on purpose. You'd be paying for it and then still working out a way to have a paid conference around this for people to attend. But once you have that paid version, you can create your own campus, your own environment. You can change up the graphics and change up the logos that are appearing in places. You can also, when you're in a group, you can create a virtual meeting room. So you can be in a group that's at a table and other people can join, but if you want to make it private, you can create a meeting room and lock it so that then only the people who are invited to that meeting room can go join. And I'm just trying to, maybe I should just walk. While I'm waiting, I should just walk and leave the room because I'm trying to get this menu to work for me, and it's not working. There we go. I should be out in the main campus now. But what do you guys think? If I made a future event of SoFri, and we did a meeting here, and we had Mitch Sellers or someone presenting in the great hall, and we all got together here, are you up for doing an experiment with us and downloading the app and seeing how it all works together? All right, I got 1 out of 6.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm up for it, but I cannot unmute for some reason. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's worth a try.
Yeah, I think my internet connection is slowing down here because it's taking forever to load back up this main conference area again. And maybe that's what's going on with this. Because I just wanted to go to boardroom and just show you smaller conference room spaces. They have some games. One of the games they call the Invisible Path, and the way it works is the person who's playing the game is trying to navigate a maze that's part Minesweeper and part part team building tool. And the person navigating the maze cannot see the maze. They are just walking, and they have to go forward, left, back, right, that kind of thing. But everyone else in the room with them can see them on the maze, but they see different things. So one person in the team might be able to see the obstructions, whereas another person on the team can see the bombs that will set you back to the beginning, versus another person on the team will see the telephones that make a distraction because you get a telemarketing call while you're trying to complete the maze. So everyone has to use teamwork to describe and tell the person what to do as they need to navigate. But here we are in one of the conference rooms, and if I walk up and sit down, the way that this works is once you're at a conference room location, you can have your advertisement screens and your advertisement messages, but then you have your main presenting area where someone can then begin presenting and start putting up content. You can connect to anything that's in your machine, so it can be external websites, it can be your camera, it can be PowerPoint presentations, whatever you want to have. These are the kind of rooms that you can go to and you can create if you want to take a meeting private or have a smaller meeting. Thanks. I think I'm still stuck in a chair. Okay, click to sit. Click to sit. Okay, now stand up. There we go. I don't know. I think that's about it. It's a fun system. I could see how we might be able to do something with it. It might be fun to have as an idea to spend some time with a larger group of people, and I think that possibly it would take a larger group of people to make some of the features of it really show or really make sense. But it's interesting. It's interesting with the way that they are set up. Yeah, it's got to be. With the way that they're set up, their pricing goes by small groups, large groups, and institutions, basically. Well, I'm waiting for that to load. I don't know if you're still hearing me or if it's choppy, but that's one of the things to... you need your headset back. I need my headset back, or that's Daniel? That's pretty much it for some things that I wanted to show off tonight and discuss. Oh, I'm choppy. Sure. I'll pass the mic kind of around the room. Anybody have anything else they want to kind of run through from the DNN side of things tonight?
Actually, I had a question. I don't know if anyone can hear me. Yeah. Okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You guys were talking about the file manager being really ancient code. Just out of curiosity, how much of DNN is ancient code? I know there's been a lot of
less and less every day.
That's a great question.
Less and less every day.
Quite a bit of it, but it's evolved over the years.
One word, another word for it is mature.
Mature.
How you see it.
If you listen to and talk with Mitch and Daniel and David, you'll hear them mention things about the technology debt and the inherited code that has been around for quite a long time. But slowly but surely that content has changed. If you were to look at DNN 7 and then look at DNN 8 and then look where it is now today with DNN 9, you'd see that there have been major revisions and changes, and over time the depreciation of older elements and older systems, and whenever there are steps of DNN upgrades that have breaking changes, many times it's because a key older piece of code has been depreciated. So, as a really good example, the Sol Part menu was around forever. The Sol Part menu was around from DNN 2 or DNN 3 all the way on, and it had stopped being used by DNN 6, I think, DNN 7? It was still in skins, and it was still in several different things, but it was retired as of DNN 8. So when you get up to DNN 8, you've got to change your skins for that older Sol Part menu reference. And in DNN 9, it's just not there at all. So it takes a little while to kind of age out these older components. Sol Part menu is a good example of one that was around for so long, took a long time to finally phase out, and now that it's gone, You know, the main thing we hear about it today is when people forget and they upgrade their site and they forget that they have to update their skins to match.
Just to follow up on that, I do like Daniel's word choice of mature, and we can all giggle and stuff. There is a lot of DNN's been around a long time, right? It's early 2000s, so there's a lot of mature concepts there. Like if you think about pages and modules and all that kind of stuff, that stuff is old, but it works and works well. To Ryan's point, there's a lot of other stuff in the system that has evolved over the years, been removed. But you know, I had a conversation with someone the other day, and if you look at something like Drupal is one of the world's most popular frameworks from a PHP perspective, and Drupal's been around since same as DNN, like early 2000s. So there's a lot of other platforms and technologies out there, which I think sometimes DNN, at least in my network too, like I have a lot of DNN has a stigma in some ways because it's old .NET and type of stuff. But the other end of the spectrum, a lot of the other world's most popular things are of the same era and evolving in the same ways too. So I think sometimes we gotta look at, you know, yeah, code might be old, and it hasn't changed because there's perfectly nothing wrong with it in some cases too. So in some cases that's not correct either. But you know, that's like any product or system that's built. So I think you kind of have to weigh that a little bit too, and not just think something's bad necessarily because it's older.
That's true, Mike, because like, I mean, even with, for those of you that have been following the Octane project, Sean is reusing the exact same architectural concepts to build Octane. So it's like, you know, the concepts are so solid in many regards that, you know, it's something to be patterned after, you know, even with newer code technologies, right? So, yeah, good to keep that in mind.
It's kind of funny in a way. A lot of best practices that are being adopted in technologies today are actually things that have been designed back in the 70s and 60s and 80s. There's a lot of fundamental software development best practices and methodologies that were developed then, which went to the nay side because, well, not the nay side, but you know, not adopted in all cases because it's a lot of effort. And now technologies are coming out to make a lot of that much easier. You know, it's IT is an interesting thing, and you know, it's like JavaScript. Just because there's a new flavor of the week framework doesn't necessarily mean you're one from, you know, if it's secure and obviously things like that and does its job. Doesn't mean it's not bad because it's 5 years old either. So we always got to weigh the pros and the cons, I think, in those conversations. That being said, I do think there's a lot of DNN which is there that isn't used anymore, which probably could, in my opinion, be pushed aside one day to make it a lot more lightweight and less crowded, so that you know, someone said, I think Daniel, I want to think it was Daniel Netler, I might be wrong though, but I thought he said there was 10,000 features in DNN. Like, if you think about that, there's a lot of stuff there, a lot of good stuff, and maybe not a lot of great stuff too at the same time.
We were joking in the leadership team earlier today about a conversation we were having about, you know, some of this kind of ideas here we're talking about, and it was funny. I think it was Peter that said it's like we oh gosh, how did he word it? It was something about like yeah, we've got all these things and the manual got thrown away or something, you know, and we're trying to remember how it works, right? You know, some of this really older stuff, and so it's like having to reverse engineer a lot of this stuff that was great ideas way back in the day, but nobody knows how it works.
Yeah, and even some of the old timers, we get into something, oh boy, I haven't done this in a long time, how did this work? And you realize, you know, documentation was really lacking. We're trying to catch up, but there's stuff in DNN, like there's no documentation at all. Some good stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of I've done a lot of digging in the last couple of years to the bowels of DNN, and I found features that are not documented that make my life.
Say bowels of DNN. That's even worse.
Okay. Let's say deep in the core. there's a lot of really good features there that you're right, that are not documented. And you know, I started this and you know, have not finished this effort, unfortunately. But you know, for instance, there's an event system that has over 50 events that you can attach snippets of code with very little ease to when someone logs in, when a page is deleted, when a user is deleted, when a module is removed from the page, like all kinds of stuff that you can do, and none of it's really documented. And the way I look at DNN is that
not only not documented, but not taken full
advantage of.
And kind of like, wow, look at this amazing thing on the scene, and then everyone forgot about it, and you're like, that's really useful.
Exactly, yeah, like there's some really cool stuff there, and the way I'm looking at it, like it's a shame that a lot of that stuff is not, like it is in the core platform. It is, it's just not bubbled up to the UI in some cases, and yeah, that's a shame, but the way I look at it is we have a project that probably has had, you know, tens of millions of dollars over a couple decades, you know, millions of dollars pumped into it in development. And, you know, while there might be a lot of rough around the edges stuff there, you know, there's a big product with a lot of really cool stuff that, to your point, Ryan, that just, in my opinion, is not being taken advantage of.
Yep. And then, of course, then that's a point in your direction, because we've seen you use things that are right there in the core, and they're just not being utilized to their fullest, and you're making them have a place to be used.
Yeah, in my own way of doing that, whether that's the right way, who knows? But yeah,
have to be right
absolutely.
Way. It's a way.
Yeah, yeah, good point.
There's not a right or a wrong way. There's just use or don't use.
There's some. I don't necessarily want to talk about this too much, but part of that event system, one thing I'd like to provide more information on this in the future, but one thing I've been taking advantage of a lot lately is, you know, if you typically want to have something added to every single page on your site, you create a module and share it on pages. You piggyback on top of an analytics file or some other method. But one of those events that I've been using a lot lately is you can actually write piece of C# that gets picked up. It's called a skin event. So every time a skin loads, you can load a piece of custom code and do whatever you want inside of it. You know, there's a lot of really cool things that are in the pipelines that aren't necessarily what most people think of in DNN, which is straight to a module. So some pretty cool stuff in there.
All right, so that was kind of a good segue into a larger topic. Tell you what, Daniel, let's
What?
Mike, let's have you come back and talk with us in another month or two. We'll do a bit of a Shine update, and then I don't know, maybe you take some sections or features of DNN that are underused, and you show how they could be used and how they could be made into something, and that becomes our topic in August.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. I'll definitely like to provide some examples of where you can use some of these things in a real world scenario.
Yeah.
I've done that before. I think I called the presentation "Building Blocks of DNN," where I did a couple of those things. But there's 10,000 building blocks in DNN, so there's a lot more to talk about.
Yep. All right, everyone. We're hitting close up to 8 o'clock, and I think that's a good point for us to round out our SoFri meeting for tonight. We have next month, July. I believe it's July the 16th. So third Thursday in July, we'll have Mitch Sellers coming on to talk to us about a module that he and his company put out just recently for easy two-factor authentication in DNN. I know that two-factor authentication is something that I've been asked about by a few different clients, and there have been ways to approach that. I've also been knee-deep in several different authentication systems recently, from Azure AD and different variations and flavors of that, to traditional AD, to other kinds of OAuth authentication. And two-factor is one of the ones that there haven't been a lot of forays into in the DNN space just yet, and what Mitch has put together should be an easy way for anyone to get into that and use that for extra security within their sites. So we'll be excited to hear about and get into that information for easy two-factor authentication for DNN next month. And with that, we'll go ahead and end the recording. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next month.